The Tecno Camon 40 looks and feels like your everyday good budget smartphone, and that's fine. But I would say it has two special features that make it stand out from the rest. Let's talk about it. This is what the box of the Camon 40 looks like. With this box, you'll notice two things. One is that it's dirty. I just had this on my table. I honestly do not know how it got this dirty. So, yeah. But yeah, the other thing you'll notice is Tecno AI written toward the bottom end of the box. So just by looking at this box, you kind of know that you would be getting a ton of AI features. And you start to see that even from the setup process. Tecno's AI kind of walked me through the whole thing. It was the same usual questions and options, but it was a totally different UI and it felt more like a conversation. Like I was talking to Tecno's AI. I've never seen anything like this before, so I thought it was cool. We'll talk more about Tecno's AI later in the video. In the box, we get the usual accessories, a charging adapter, a charging cable, and a transparent TPU case. The only accessory missing that you might need to spend extra on is wired earphones. Just like they do every year, Tecno changed things up in the design department. This is the Camon 30 next to the Camon 40, and yeah, they do not look anything alike. If you get the new phone, everyone would easily know that you got the new phone, which I think is a good thing. What would be easy to know though is what new phone you got. The Camon 40 and Camon 40 Pro look very, very alike. The only clear way to tell them apart is when you turn to the front of the phones. The 40 Pro has a curved display, while the 40 has a flat display. Another way to tell them apart is with color. For the most part, they both have the same color options, black, green, and white, but the Camon 40 gets an extra color, the emerald glow green, the color I have. It's not bad, but I think I like the white better. Looking at the actual design though, I think it's fine. I prefer last year's design to this, but this is still very fine. They went with a Samsung-esque camera arrangement with the indicator light and flashlight next to it. There's also this curve that acts like a sort of camera bump. Tecno says that curve is designed like a swan's neck. I guess you can say that. The back of the phone is matte while the frame is glossy. On the right side of that glossy frame, you'd find the power and volume buttons, and then on the left side, you'd find an orange button. Tecno is calling this button the one-tap button. By default, a double press is for FlashSnap. I'll explain that in a bit. And then a long press wakes up Ella, Tecno's voice assistant. What I really like is that this button is remappable. If you feel like you'd rather use that extra button as a mute button than to wake up Ella, you can. You can use that button to open whatever app you want. For those wondering, the Camon 40 has a hybrid SIM tray. So you can either use one SIM card and an SD card, or two SIM cards and no SD card. A positive though is that we get stereo speakers. This is what they sound like. I might be wrong about this, but one improvement we get on the Camon 40 coming from the Camon 30 is an IP rating. This phone has an IP66 rating, which means it's dust tight and can survive water jets from any direction. This phone is also drop resistant. Apparently, they got a certification for that. I would always recommend that you not drop your phone, whether that's on the floor or in water, but at least with this phone, you know that if that happens, it's most likely going to survive. Okay, so that's about it for design, good quality, and the one-tap button. Now let's talk about this phone's display. It's pretty straightforward. It's a good-looking 120Hz 1080p AMOLED display with very minimal bezels. It's not super obvious, but they did make the bezels smaller on here. I really like how the front of this phone looks. For protection, we get Panda King glass. This was the first time of me hearing about Panda King glass, so I had to look it up. Apparently, it's ultra thin, environmentally friendly, and a cost-effective alternative to Gorilla Glass. Considering this is a budget phone and the Camon 30 didn't even have any sort of protection, this is fine. Because this is AMOLED, you get the option of an always-on display. And I particularly like the ones you get when you use any of the pre-installed live wallpapers. There's this nice transition from the always-on display to the lock screen. I think it's neat. There are a bunch of other options though, so you can choose any you like. And the same goes for wallpapers. There are many options to choose from. We have on-device wallpapers, we have online wallpapers, and then wallpapers you can create with the help of AI. Speaking of AI, I think it's time we talk about Tecno AI. If you're wondering what Tecno AI can actually do for you, just go into your settings app and you should see Tecno AI. Once you click on it, you'd see everything Tecno AI can do for you. There are a bunch of them, and in fact, we've already talked about one, the AI wallpaper generator. I think a lot of people would use that. But my personal favorite is Circle to Search. If you see anything on your screen that you want more information on, you could just hold down the navigation bar, circle, and search. But not just that, let's say someone is playing a song around you. You can ask your phone to listen and search. Oh, and you can also translate what's on your screen by holding down the navigation bar and hitting the translate icon. Circle to Search is pretty fire. Students would love this next one. You can point your camera at a math question and the Camon 40 would be able to solve it. First, you need to swipe to the left and scroll down till you see problem solving and just point the camera at the question. It should solve it. We of course also have all the photo editing AI features. Image eraser and image extender I think are the really popular ones. They're simple to use and would come in clutch when you really need them. Okay, here's one last one. If you go into the phone app and click on settings and then tap on speech enhancement, you should see Clear voice capture. Turning that and clear calling on would allow your phone to use AI to reduce background noise when you make calls. And then when you're done with said calls, you can use call summary. It's pretty simple. It summarizes your calls. I could really make an entire video talking about all the AI features this phone has, because there are just so many. But let's move on. The Camon 40 is running on iOS 15, which is based on Android 15, and it's set to get 3 years of major software updates. I think Tecno has really upped their software game with all the AI features and now pretty good software support. That's nice to see. This phone still does come with bloatware, a lot of them, but they're not as aggressive as they used to be. I don't remember receiving any notification from any of them. One thing though that I noticed that I didn't quite like is the little delay from pressing the power button to the phone coming on. There is this fading animation which is really nice, but I think it's a little too slow. It's quicker though if you turn on the always on display. It also looks nicer. Another thing I noticed is that they kind of listen to me. In previous videos, I used to ask that Tecno put all the customization features in one place. They did that, and that's cool. Okay, now let's talk performance. This is going to be a very short one because not a lot has changed. The Camon 40 uses the Helio G100 chipset. The G100 is basically identical performance-wise to the G99, which was used on the Camon 30. So you see, not a lot has changed. But that's not actually a bad thing, because the performance on this phone, just like on the Camon 30, is fine. Whether it's gaming, whether it's multitasking, the phone would handle it pretty well. In fact, most other phones at this price either use the G100 or G99. So basically, all phones at this price have the same performance. Where you might see some differences though is with RAM. Some phones start at 4 gigs, some at 6. This starts at 8 and comes with either 128 or 256 gigs of storage. Now of course, this is still a budget phone, so it comes with its own drawbacks. But overall I would say for the price, it performs very okay. Another department where this phone does very okay is in the camera department. The Camon 40 looks like it has 3 cameras at the back, but really it's just 2. One 50 megapixel main camera and one 8 megapixel ultra-wide camera. I actually initially thought that the third lens was an IR blaster, but I was wrong, because the IR blaster is actually at the top of the phone, next to the top speaker. So yeah, just like the Camon 30, we get an IR blaster, so you can control your electronic appliances with your phone. This phone also still has the indicator light. It comes on when doing a couple things, like when charging, when using Ella, when a call comes in, and when recording video. You can sort of choose when you want it to come on, or if you don't like it, you can just turn it off. Okay, back to the cameras. I've had the Camon for about 2 weeks now, and I've been taking pictures with it very regularly. Just like with the previous Camon, the cameras impressed me. This phone uses Sony's 50 megapixel LYT700C sensor. It's supposed to be really good at day and night photos, and I think it is. It's definitely top 3 for its price. The 8 megapixel ultra-wide camera though isn't as detailed, but I still really like the images that it produces. Color is a bit different from the main camera, but still pretty good. The selfie camera is also pretty good. I'm not the biggest selfie fanatic, but the few I took looked good. Let me know what you guys think of them in the comments. Now, if you remember, earlier in the video I talked about how a double press on the one tap button would open up FlashSnap. What is FlashSnap? FlashSnap is a camera mode that lets you take clear pictures of subjects in motion. For lots of budget phones, your subject kind of has to stay still in order to get a clear, non-blurry image. But with this phone, you don't really have to worry about that. It makes use of the camera's fast shutter speed as well as AI to ensure that every picture taking looks clear. There's also something called auto snap. When turned on, the camera would automatically take a photo once it detects motion. And of course, the image would come out clear. The Camon 40 can shoot in 2K resolution without stabilization. But then if you shoot in 1080p, you can get stabilization. I think the video quality is nice. Things like color, dynamic range, detail are spot on, and for the most part, stabilization is also good. But there is that occasional wobble you see, especially when you're doing things like walking or moving the camera around. The same applies to the front-facing camera. It can shoot 2K, but you only get stabilization in 1080p, and I also noticed that wobbling thing as well. So that's it for the camera. It gets a solid 8 from me. The Camon 40 has a 5200 mAh battery. It should definitely last the entire day for the vast majority of people. You can expect 7 to 8 hours of screen on time with moderate to heavy use, which is very fine. And then when it comes to charging, this phone supports speeds of up to 45 watts. Now, 45 watts is fine. I think most people would be very fine with that charging speed. But when you then look at the Camon 30 and see that it supported 70 watts of wire charging, then suddenly 45 watts feels like it's not enough. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, even though 45 watts is very fine for basically everyone, it's still a downgrade. The good news though is when you compare this to the Camon 30, there are more upgrades than there are downgrades. I actually think Tecno did a lot of new stuff with this phone that makes it feel like a good upgrade. And then when you compare it to the 40 Pro, it's even not that far behind. The Camon 40 starts at 275,000 Naira. At that price, this phone is slightly more expensive than the competition. I think about 10-15,000 Naira more expensive than the competition. But you can make an argument that this phone comes with more features. Tecno AI and FlashSnap might actually be what separates this from the rest of the phones in the market. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think of this phone in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you when you see me.